I always neglect this, but thank Rodney and Channel 3 for broadcasting our meeting. We appreciate that. And Macy's here with Record Delta, and Beth is in place of Katie tonight, who's vacationing. So welcome, Beth, to the meeting. I want to start this evening out before we enter our moment of silence. For those that may not know, we have, even though it wasn't inside the Buckhannon city limits itself, but our community suffered a loss today with a structure fire up at Adrian that displaced several residents at the Holly Apartments. Many of those people probably don't know where they're going to go tonight. I do believe in just having brief conversations with some of the firefighters that were on scene today that it is looks like it's probably going to be a total loss. So we need to keep the folks up in the Adrian community in our thoughts and prayers as we enter our moment of silence. And we thank goodness that there were no injuries reported on scene today with any of the firefighters that were there. It was one of the first times where Chief Kimball told me that he called for every single fire department to be on scene that Upshur County had for a structure fire. So it was a pretty bad one. So let's keep the folks up in Adrian in our thoughts and prayers as we enter our moment of silent reflection tonight. Thank you very much. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. To begin our meeting this evening, we do not have anybody that looks like that is signed up to speak to us, but we do, have under B1 recognized guests. We have 3 members of the Buckhannon Volunteer Fire Department, and they are Travis Dean, who's president of the volunteers, and then volunteer members Glenn Davis and Brian Chittister. Gentlemen, whoever would like to speak, all 3 are welcome to speak, but we would just ask that you come to the podium because we're recording and we have a microphone strategically placed up there at the podium. So whoever would like to start us off, please approach the podium.
Mr. Mayor, we'll all stay there, that way we can best answer questions.
That would be fine. And for council's reference, there is a letter in your packet that the volunteers submitted for correspondence prior to tonight's meeting. Gentlemen?
Okay, the question has, I guess, originated, do the volunteers support the hiring of a 3rd firefighter per shift? President Dean, Lieutenant Dean, and Lieutenant Chittister and myself were there when the vote was held. It was unanimous. And quite simply, the reason why was right here. This is our mission statement. Give me a second, I'll read it. The Buckhannon Fire Department will protect the lives and property of those we serve. We will perform those duties with professionalism, integrity, and the safety of our members being our highest priorities. That's followed up by our core values. Our core values are professionalism, integrity, honor, brotherhood, and community oriented. The bottom line is we want to do the best job we can as volunteers are paid. We're treated as equals. We take the same classes. We're held to the same standards as the paid staff are. Our job is to protect the people that we serve, whether they're in Adrian or in the city. That's the bottom line. And we feel we can do that best. We feel we can do that safer if we've got that third guy or gal per shift. That's bottom line. Any questions?
I think the original question was not whether you support the hiring of the 3 additional firemen. That would the hiring of the 3 impact the volunteers in general, in ranks? And the thought being that if you're sitting beside someone responding to a fire and they are earning a living doing it and you're not, does that impact? Because I think there has been other examples in organizations that once this process starts, that it ends up continually diminishing the volunteer ranks and building, so there needs to be more paid firemen to supplement. So I appreciate you, identifying your mission statement and that you support the hiring of these people, and that with that approach, I would hope that everything stays status quo when and if these firemen are hired.
Well, guys, help me out if I stray or whatever.
Do you want me to take this one? So respectfully, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing us to be here to represent our organization. But the generation today, we don't have the volunteerism as we do 10 years ago. Mr. Glenn Davis, he's been a mentor of mine for 10, 15 years. I've been in fire department 13 years. Eventually, we're going to fade away, and who's going to replace us? The volunteerism is not there. I am more excited to have paid staff to be employed within our organization because we're both military members. We're gone 2 or 3 weeks out of the year. That's 2 or 3 weeks we're taken away from an organization that hopefully we don't have something happens in this town, in this community. If we had paid staff, then they could, be there in our absence. This community is growing bigger. It's not going smaller, it's getting bigger. And the demand, our mission is getting bigger. And the demand for people to assist us is needed. So
We appreciate your service.
thanks, sir.
We do. Thank you.
Our members are diminishing. Okay, we're aware of that and we're addressing that. Right now, the 3 of us and several others are working on a recruitment and retention program. We've got to get more volunteers in. It's hard. It's a challenge. I think the greatest thing that's going for us is the standards that we as a single group have set. We've always raised the bar a little higher. That's what gets us. Oh boy, sometimes you got to take a deep breath, and I'm 59 years old, I'm on the end of my career, but I will not let my brothers down, period. So when it comes to training and when it comes to performing, I need to meet the standards that my brothers and sisters are meeting. With that being said, honor, integrity, brotherhood, we take those pretty importantly. And it's not just, okay, we're supporting the paid guys because they feel like they need an extra guy. No, that's not it. The bottom line, the absolute bottom line is the reason we signed on for this job, me, 21, 22 years ago, and you guys a little later, we're here to help the community. It doesn't matter whether, I won't say it doesn't matter. I don't feel when I go home, oh boy, one of the paid guys took my spot. One of the paid guys was there to get there quicker than I was. That's good. We see that as a plus. We don't see that as a negative. Our higher standards and our commitment to our core values and our mission, and everybody, when I interview them or when we interview them, the new volunteers when they come in, we lay out our standards. And just to give you a little bit, it gets real serious. The first thing I say to them when they walk in a room, we do not lie, cheat, or steal, and we will not tolerate anybody that does. Period. And the youngsters, this is not all fun and games. So, that being said, the mission statement, you guys, give us a bunch of money, and we appreciate it. We have good equipment. That helps us do the job. And you guys know that it's people that do the work, not equipment. We've long said in the fire service, give me 10 good guys with training, I don't need any equipment. If I don't have any equipment, I'll take 10 good guys. If you have 100 people that aren't trained, or you got to spend more time chasing them down to get them to do something, you got a problem. So.
What's the,
Can I just, from each of the three of you, can you tell me one thing that we could do better? And when I say we, I mean the city of Buckhannon or the infrastructure at the Buckhannon Fire Department, be it Chief Kimball or any of the administration at the fire department. What one thing can we do better to improve retention of the volunteer fire department members? How can we improve retention? What can we do better? What can we improve upon to keep volunteer firemen in our ranks?
I mean, that's a good question. That's what we were asking ourselves right now at this very moment.
Oh, wait, I read up on this, man. Let me have this one.
All right.
Okay. I've been doing some study on recruitment and retention, okay? And we look at it from two different aspects. There are dissatisfiers. There are reasons that people get, the alarm goes off, I'm not going to this one. They shut it off, okay? And there are satisfiers. There's things that, they gotta go. Be right back, hon. So, from our perspective, going to you guys, improve the satisfiers, okay? Recognition, every single firefighter will tell you, don't thank me, I do this as a volunteer. I'm telling you right now, thank them, okay? They won't grumble, they won't get mad at you, maybe they will, but they will hear that. And you can never unsay the word thank you without that having meaning in their head, okay? The other part of that is dissatisfiers, okay? We can spend days and everything. Dissatisfiers or, length of training, that's our perspective. We like to get firefighters in the door and get them trained right away. When they have to wait for a space at Jackson Mill or any other class, that is one of the biggest problems that we face in keeping the new ones. Because when they walk in the door, their eyes are full of excitement. They want to get out on that first call. They want to go with their brothers and sisters. They want to be part of that team. So one of our goals would be to get them trained as quickly as possible, get them through that first burn. I would love to have a training facility. A little pitch there, but it makes a difference. We have lost people in the past who were waiting for openings in the state-run fire classes. Well, after a month or two, no classes, I got something better to do. Like I said, recognition. If you go online, there's all sorts of different things that communities do. My father-in-law, when he lived up in Pennsylvania in the Poconos, this town put on an annual banquet, an awards banquet for the fire department. Simple thing, most calls, not least number of calls, person with a firefighter with the most training, everybody got a little award or something like that. But it was a dinner put on by the city to thank their firefighters. I've also heard of picnics. There's a fire department in New York City, or not New York City, New York State. They have a couple different levels of firefighters. Again, they put on a banquet to celebrate or to thank their firefighters. Maybe parking spots somewhere, pick a spot downtown, I don't know, Kroger's or whatever, for firefighters only. Little thing. It doesn't have to be money, but a thank you goes a long way. So again, satisfiers and dissatisfiers, and when we get into the meat of our recruitment and retention program, those are the types of things that we're going to address.
I think that's a great idea, and I think that we could initiate the picnic this year, sometime later this summer. And the training center, there's been brief discussion of this in the past, but that we have some property now that, you know, it depends on how much space you need and what you need to, has it ever been looked at or budgeted or?
Captain Baxa, if you asked him, he has done some research on how to set up some pretty inexpensive, durable training facilities. I'll give you my experience. Again, my father-in-law was a fire chief up in the Poconos. He also got involved with the Office of Emergency Management. Monroe County had a Monroe County fire training ground. A unique feature about it was shaped like a V, and all the middle part was slightly raised, so where the structures, the cars, all the props and everything that they fought fire in, all the drainage of that water went to a sump so that they could pump it and recirculate it. Okay, small little things that, you know, save money, and you know, we can learn from how to pump draft water from a standing water. But lots of ideas. This could be co-located. This could be used by sheriff and police department. Again, we're the same age, EMS.
Hey, let's talk about it. So if somebody's got plans or ideas, you know, I think that would be a big help with retaining volunteers. If they were, you know, on-site training, you could, you know, maybe attract people from somewhere else that, you know, comes here to get training that you could offer. So, good ideas.
A couple things. I've been here for 21 years, and 21 years ago, we probably had 35 or 40 volunteers. And so I know that's really way down now. But what I want to know is, what is your average age for a volunteer now? Because it has to be getting above 35 or so, you know?
Well, Lieutenant Chittisler just did a little bit of a deep dive in average age of our applicants.
Yes.
And what did you find?
So we looked at 5 years data. 43 people we brought on as members. We have 6 today that stuck around. So they're 20s. They're in their 20s. Actually, we had one gentleman. He's 30. Justin.
Oh, he's older than that.
40. Okay. So they're either young, paid, or they're older and got their lives straightened out and just want to volunteer.
Right.
So.
So are you saying probably over 35 is an average, maybe? For
Uh,
a lot of volunteers?
There are two kind of bumps in the anecdote of data that I'm familiar with. If you get them right out of high school, they're full of vim and vigor, they want to go out and do something, and that's great. And they're young, they're energetic, strong, can run and last forever, that's great. Not the problem, but they tend to, you know, get married, have children, and then you've got baseball games, soccer practice, things like that. And then as they get out of high school, then we're faced with the empty nesters. It's like, hey, I've always wanted to volunteer, but never had the time. And that's also another target. I mean, they're all our target, don't get me wrong. But those empty nesters are the ones that are a little more settled in their life, focused on their mission. And when they get into our training or whatever, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's more relative to them. Let me bring up another point that goes along with that. One of the targets of our recruitment and retention program is we've got to get to the employers, okay? In the old days, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call them the old days, but when we were younger, okay, for example, my father-in-law, he was a maintenance director at a pretty large factory. His boss said, if there's a fire, you go. Take care of your work, but you gotta, because his boss was smart enough to know that one day his factory might be on fire. So we need to get out and kind of get with the employers and let them recognize the importance of an hour or two a week. I mean, they can set some standards or some goals. We can certainly verify that, you know, hey, yes, Joe was here on a fire, and yes, he did serve. That's easy. We also need to, I spoke to the chief today, we also need to get those types of people back to work quickly. So if we're on a car wreck and everything's under control, all right, you two, take the squad truck, go back to work. We got to respect the employers that donate their employees.
maybe if we had a picnic or banquet or some type of thing, we could invite the bosses of the volunteers to come also, and then they'd really see and speak about it and everything, so.
Again, thank you.
But I also think at some time we need to start a junior volunteer program to get younger people interested in the fire department and being a volunteer. So,
All for it.
okay.
To answer your questions, the 30s. If they're not 20s. So you got the college kids who volunteers, and then you have the 30, 40-year-olds. That's what makes up our organization is volunteers.
Right.
So, but once the college is out and they've got their diploma, they've moved on. So the majority is those 30, 40-year-old volunteers. This is home. This is where we live. This is a place we're going to protect. So.
I want to thank you guys today. I don't know who all was on the fire, but
All of us.
well, and I hear one of you fell from the second floor, which could have been a disaster. So I want to thank you guys for that today. Nobody got hurt. So.
I'd just like to say one more pitch, if you don't mind. You know, adding extra staff to our organization. Today, we had 12 people from Buckhannon respond to our southern county to assist on the fire. There's not a doubt in my mind, if the 12 of us wasn't there, it could have been a lot worse. You know, bringing additional, because no disrespect towards the other department, because I was a volunteer from an outside organization myself. But I came here and I've got better training, better equipped, understood the dynamics of firefighting versus, you know, we have a higher standards here in the city. We've got more people to protect. You know, we've got to train. So bringing 3 people on, you know, we could have used them today. We was there 4 hours today. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your
Thank you all
service.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go home and get some rest.
Be
Yeah.
safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I briefly spoke to Chief Kimball prior to the meeting. He was out there for 4.5 hours as well, and he's a tired puppy. I'd like to ask the council if it would be okay for him to go first on the director or department board reports, and then he can go home and to his family as well.
Sure, bring him in.
Chief?
How is everybody this evening? Awful day today.
Yeah.
First time in my 30-year career that I have either heard and I actually called for an all page for any firefighter in Upshur County. That initial, we had a lady on the balcony of the building, and I had started to bring her off by myself, and she was very handicapped, and I had to have 2 gentlemen that were local in a pickup help me get her down off. So very bad situation, very limited manpower or personnel, I'm sorry. Big fire. So we had one.
What was the cause, JD?
I can't. The fire marshal's office is there investigating.
Okay.
So that, I'm sure that'll be newsworthy later on. So
Is it true 13 families were displaced?
25. There's 25
families.
people in that building. The Red Cross at this time is finding them hopefully a place to stay. And very busy day. We had a busy day yesterday at Kroger's. As you all know, Kroger's will be out of service for a little while. Very lucky in that situation too. Nobody got hurt. That much power coming into a building and having an electrical problem inside a box that catches on fire. Without the proper training, you put water in that box, you got dead fire. So thanks for proper training. And I want to give the crews that were at that fire, and of course our crews, kudos. We did a hot wash afterwards, and it's amazing to watch the training evolve, the training mechanism that we have. You know, like I've said before, we have 9 instructors in our fire department. There's probably only 1 or 2 other fire departments in the state of West Virginia that has that training mechanism. The training that we've been doing last weekend, We sent several of our members to Bridgeport to a fire expo, and all the instructors who were from all over the country spoke very highly of our members. The one class had 20 people start in it. 5 of our members took that class. It ended with 11, and it still had 5 Buckhannon firemen in it. And 2 of those were our first females in my 30-year career. That says a lot. They, all of them, put forth a great effort. So, in your packet is monthly activity and year-to-date activity. Remember, that's just through March. Chief Gregory and I met with the Strawberry Festival and OEM, EMS, and we've outlined the Strawberry Festival events. Normally, we have our whole entire career staff with standby volunteer staff for the parades and stuff. Since it's a diminished Strawberry Festival this year, we're going to upstaff the firehouse on Saturday only. While Main Street's closed, we'll have 2 additional career staff on duty to assist with EMS. EMS and fire is going to be based out of our fire station along with OEM. So we're getting everybody together there to be a command center in case we do have an MCI, mass casualty incident or something like that. So the new truck, I've spoke to Amby about. The goal for Suffin is it will be done in September. So it's we'll be on the assembly line around the 1st of June. The cab's already built, the pump corral is built, and once they put it on the assembly line, it's a time thing. It goes through very quickly. Spoke a little bit on training. We have been doing some in-house training also. We have our semi-annual competencies we have to do. That's from top to bottom, from chief down to the Pro B firefighter has to do the same thing. That way, just like today, there's times, and yesterday I have to become part of the operations. I have to still be able to drag hose and put an air pack on. Don't have to do that all the time, but when we have a big event, I have to. So we had our ISO class, I think it was 2 Thursdays ago. We had 2 gentlemen come in that are evaluators in this region. It went very well, very informative. And the following Monday, I got a request from the ISO local person that he wants to come in and reevaluate us after we spoke about our last evaluation. I don't think we were fared well in the judgment of the last evaluator. So within 45 days, I have to have the material to him, and I'm going to be meeting with the 911 director, go over some stuff that we went back and looked at the last evaluation and where we kind of laxed in some points. I've already met with the water department. We flowed the hydrants like the guy expects us to, and we'll have to do that on an annual basis. The fire department assisted the water department on that. It was good to get out and go around with those water department employees. I want to thank Kelly Arnold and his guys for that. I missed the civil service meeting today. The civil service handbook that is on file here is outdated. There's been some changes in the state code. I was at Adrian on fire when they had the meeting, and Amby had spoke that it went well. Just some stuff that needs updated, some wording and some other things. I think it's the 17th, after Strawberry Festival, we're going to have an accreditation meeting. We're in our 3rd year of data collection, so we can start having our 11 category processes. Category 1 is about the government, authority having jurisdiction, the agency, and how we were developed and all that. So the mayor and I will be presenting on that. And also, Mayor, on down the line, I'd asked for somebody from council to be appointed to that accreditation committee. And I'd also asked the council, I think it'd be very beneficial to all of us if maybe we included a county commissioner or somebody from the county administration to that process. I believe the transparency, the dialogue that we create with them, and a little more understanding going on there. So I would ask for you all to look at that. And that's all I have, unless y'all have some questions.
Are there questions for Chief Kimball? No, sir.
Thank you for,
very much.
I know you had a rough day.
Go home and
Thank
get
you.
rest.
Thank you, Jay.
I might drink a bottle of water or something before I go to bed, but thank you all very much, and
Take care.
have a good evening.
Enjoy that bottle of water.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay. Public Works Director, Mr. Jerry Arnold.
Good evening, folks.
Hey, Jay.
How are you?
Jerry.
Hello. I've been working with Region 7 on the submission of a couple intent to apply for grant funds for a walk trail extension, right-of-way acquisition, and design for sidewalks on Morton Avenue and North Woodcott Streets. We were unable to install the geogrid material jawbone because of the wet conditions the start of the week, and so we're hoping shortly after festival we can get that taken care of. Been working on preparing a sidewalk project on Smithfield to address areas where we no longer have curbs. There was a lot of really low curbs. We went in and actually ground the curb lines out, trying to maintain as much as we could. And then after the paving, of course, we're back to no curbs again. And I was up there this, I guess it was Tuesday morning, and during that rainstorm, and the sidewalks are just inundated with water. And of course, we can't have that this winter, so we're going to go up and do when we do our curb ramps on the corners. I told you we had to do 10 curb ramps to be compliant with paving the street. We're going to go ahead and do a sidewalk projects where those curbs are virtually non-existent now. So there'll be a 4-inch curb added to that side of the street, or sidewalk. It's not really a curb; it's just added to the curb.
Folks I've talked to are very complimentary of the street paving project, so who we contracted did a great job. So.
They typically do. That's, and again, I'll be putting the paving contract back up for bid. The last time it was bid out was 2019 for contract. So I like to do it yearly, but we just, with last year, everything going on last year, it didn't get done. So we followed up. This year we'll put it back out. But the contractor, I've already spoke to the contractor, and he's pretty confident with the prices we currently have. So again, we've been satisfied with this contractor. I'm transferring one of our waste employees to streets. We had a position vacated in streets here the last few weeks, and I have a waste collection employee who has construction experience and has desired to come over to the street department. So I'm going to make that lateral move, and then we have an ad out now for the hire of a waste collection employee, a driver for waste collection. Vincent, Brad, and I met with Chip Pickering and West Virginia Wesleyan College representatives regarding the installation of the solar farm. Jay's reviewing the layout and plans and making comments. One of the things that we discussed or talked about whenever Vaughn Hartley came to Consolidate and made the presentation, one of the questions were keeping the grass mowed and keeping the appearance of the lots. And we asked Mr. Pickering straight up about that. And of course, part of it's on a gravel lot, but the part that's in the grass, and I thought it really interesting, and it was like a duh moment. He said, no, we're going to plant pollinator gardens. So exactly what we do on our FEMA lot. So you'll have solar panels and wildflowers, and then of course they will clear them once a year like we do, save on mowing costs. Of course, even a more green solution for the college. So I thought that was very interesting myself. Street department, We continue or will continue to set the light poles on Gateway West. Also have to finish the handrail over the culvert up there. We're installing another green space area on Main Street. I'll be setting up and assisting with the Strawberry Festival events, of course, next week. We've prepared parks and playgrounds. We have hired a park attendant. He starts tomorrow. And in sewer, of course, the sewer department, all hands on deck on the North Spring Street project. They've got both crews working down there. Crew 1 continues to work, or is working on the installation of the storm sewer up Spring Street. Crew 2 is working on the installation of a sewer line in the alley behind CJ's and adjacent to Kaufman's dentistry. Water department continue to work on hydrants and have pulled the second raw water pump to be rebuilt. And in waste, just a note, I'll probably go over this twice because for the next council meeting too. Jeff Walmsley, Jeff's been a rock and waste collection for several years. Jeff will be retiring June the 4th will be his last day. So if you see him out, wish him well. He's done a great job for the city. Really appreciate it. Engineering report, Tenderton booster stations. Jay staked out the approximate location of the property acquisition for review by the water department. He believes that the area to be acquired is sufficient. Once the property is reviewed, the water department will need to contact a surveyor to have the property corners set. The owners agreed to donate the required property needed for the new Tenderton booster station site. We'll be working with the water department to GPS locate the preliminary property corners. And we'll be working with Tom O'Neill to provide a proposed deed and plat documents for the owner to review within a few months. And Jay continues to work on the EPA risk assessment plan for submittal. The 75% draft plan will be submitted to the water department for review and comments within the next 2 weeks. JH Consulting will prepare and submit the emergency response plan on behalf of the water department once the R&R plan has been submitted. The R&R and EOP plans are required as a result of the American Water Infrastructure Act. FEMA Generator Hazard Mitigation Grant number 1. Bid opening was held on April the 15th. 3 contractor bid on the project. The project came in almost 28% over budget, and he has been in contact with FEMA and the West Virginia Emergency Management Department numerous times over the past 2 weeks seeking resolution for a conversation on April 30th. They requested that a new benefit cost analysis be conducted on the grant using bid opening results to determine if the overrun budget is still cost effective. Begin the new benefit cost analysis on April 30th and plan to submit the request information on both FEMA and WDEMD this week. And that's all I have, Mayor, unless there's questions for me.
Who did we hire for the park attendant?
Mr. Weaver, Carl Weaver is his name. He's an older gentleman. Yeah. Okay.
How will this, not having the geogrid material on Jawbone?
We plan, Randy, to probably use, like we do in the cemetery, we'll probably use lay down mats for the one side of the vendors.
Right.
The other side on the sidewalk, minimizing rutting and get them in there. One thing that we did talk about as a department today is the main issue with Jawbone is, as we know, flooding. So we have to have a contingency plan that if we have a flash flood event, that we have people on call and have clearly defined job responsibilities to remove those vendors as quickly as possible in that event, because we know how quick that the water can come up in that Jawbone area. And like I said, that is the biggest downside to having events in Jawbone is because of the flooding. But we're pre-planning for it and do not expect any problems. If we foresee a weather report that's very negative, then we'll have to go to Plan B.
Well, thank goodness it never rains during the storage fund.
Absolutely not. No, no. So I don't know if maybe we consider putting pontoons under the.
Yeah, right.
Jerry,
Yes, sir.
on some of the streets, where the storm drain have been the metal, with the paving on Smithfield, there's could be a 4-inch to 5-inch difference between where the street is and where the drain is. Is that going to be taken care of?
We will check them, Dave. I mean, 2 to 3 inches is acceptable. Again, you know, you want your storm drains low. You want the drops low.
Yeah.
And we try, like I said, we try to grind prior to paving so that we don't lose, again, you lose curb, you gain drop on inlets. So when we do the sidewalk, we'll be checking that as well. And if we need to, we'll pour up the lip on the box to reset the grades.
Well, when you get a chance sometime, you might want to check it where my house is on Arnold and Smithfield, because I'm afraid somebody riding a bicycle or whatever is going to have some real issues there, and could really get, could break an ankle or something. It's much more than 2 or 3 inches. I know that. Come over sometime, I'll show it to you.
Any other questions or comments for Jerry? All right, thank you,
Jerry.
sir.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Take care.
Say thanks to all the fellows too and the women.
And Beryl.
Okay. Drop everything here. Okay, I'm going to give you your balances for April 30th. For general fund, $1,111,875, and the CD for $85,911. Historic landmark savings, $3,025. The fire truck savings, $38,348. Stalker Youth Center capital campaign didn't change from last month. It's $428,000 plus a $12,000 pledge is $440,000 for the capital campaign. Coal tax, $55,918. Municipal stabilization, $814,000. Flood control, $9,390. Consolidated Public Works Board, $189,000. Sales tax, we have $1,680,000. We did receive our first quarter disbursement from 2021 for $430,000. April revenues for the general fund was $523,657. We did get the rents in from the utility boards, that totaled $30,000. The expenses was $505,551. The invoices that I want to point out to you, Datamax, we expensed $2,437. That was for the collection of city license and B&O taxes. We expensed $1,495 to the NFPA National Fire Prevention. That was a first-year subscription. $6,009 to George Wilson for steel forms for the ADA mats. $3,100 to Central Supply for concrete at Gateway West project. $1,584 to Amazon for 50 amp extension cords for Jobin Park. $1,983 for curb roller for the concrete roller screed. We expensed $11,780 for the flip screen that you all authorized that tosses dirt around in a cage. That's what I see it doing.
Tosses dirt around.
It does, doesn't it?
You got that for a headline, tosses dirt around in a cage.
Well, Well, I wanted to visually let them see what was going on with this thing.
That's it.
So then we expensed $1,000 to the Buckhannon Lodge of the Knights of Pythias, the earnest money for the property purchase across the street from 65 East Main Street. Also working to close out a couple of grants. The REAP grant from 2019 is a recycling grant. It was for $50,000 and it assisted the waste board in purchasing a hook lift truck for recycling. And then the PATH grant, physical activities grant, it was from 2019. We kind of put everything on hold in 20 because of the pandemic, and it held off a lot of accomplishments. It was $5,000 to place signage and markings for the 5K routes. And we're also going to purchase a water fountain. It's like a water bottle filling station for Jawbone Park out of these funds too. That'll be nice. And Jerry told you about the part-time park attendant who's been hired. We also hired a part-time labor to help our horticulturalist. So she's got help today, or this week. And then when school lets out, she's got 2 part-time people she'll hire. So you'll see a lot more activity with the flower beds. I mean, she's doing it now.
Yeah, I've noticed that the last 2 days in dodging the raindrops, things have drastically improved. So.
Yeah. Then just a couple other things. Waste collection tonight approved the purchase of a new Packer garbage truck today, and that totaled about $150,000. And we are continuing to distribute the poly cards. We did have that drop dead date of May the 1st that they had to be out, but we had to extend. We have to extend that. We will continue to pick the garbage up until you get your poly card. We're working on that. And then I've had a few people ask about the fireworks this year. We budgeted for that, but just a reminder, there is an event in cooperation with Festival Fridays, July the 2nd, and we will have fireworks in Buckhannon that day. That's it.
Are there questions or comments for Amby relative to her report?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Yep.
I forgot to, Tom, do you have a report or do you want to defer to strategic issues?
I'll just defer to strategic if that's all right.
That's perfectly fine with us. Okay, that takes us down to correspondence and information. We've got a letter of support, as we just heard from the volunteer fire department in their presentation. We received a FOIA request from Steve Cantler, list of bidders and the results for the cemetery mowing. There's a quitclaim deed for 15 Cleveland Avenue. We've got the report of the dog and cat activity from the Upshur County Commission for March 2021. FEMA Emergency Power Generators Hazmat Mitigation Project Grant number 1 bid opening results. And then a letter to Community Care about the flood door installation requirements located at 34 and 36 North Kanawha Street. Those are all in the packet to review. Under the consent
agenda, yes.
Yes.
We did not distribute the minutes for the 4/15/2021
Right.
meeting yet. However, we did the 4/20/2021.
Right, I made a note of that, but I'm glad you reminded me because I probably would have just read it as is.
That's okay. Thank you.
So, per Mr. Sanders' comment, we have the approval of the minutes from the special meeting on 4/20, as well as the approval of the building and wiring permits, approval of the payment of the bills, approval of the resignation of Elisa Lowley from the Police Civil Service Commission. She was the Chamber of Commerce appointment. We have approval of resignation of Sean Harris from the Buckhannon Planning Commission. And then we have the approval of the appointment of Sean Harris to the Police Civil Service Commission. He is a Chamber of Commerce appointment. Do I hear a motion that we accept the consent agenda, noting that the minutes from 4/15 are not included in the motion?
So,
We have a motion by Mr. Thomas. Do we have a second?
second.
All right. All those, second by Mr. Rylance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Like sign opposed. Motion carries. Okay. Mr. O'Neill has joined us. We are down to strategic issues for discussion and or vote. First up is a discussion, possible action resolution 2021-04, and that is the acceptance of the quitclaim deed from Pamela Perrine located at 15 Cleveland Avenue.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As was noted under correspondence and information, we have received the quitclaim deed from Pamela Perrine for the property at 15 Cleveland Avenue. We are required to present to the council a resolution of acceptance for that deed. That resolution's in your packet. It is basically, the resolution is that the deed is accepted and that it will be recorded with the deed. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them at this time.
This is a resolution. So
it is a
Roll
resolution.
call vote.
Yeah.
So I will defer to Mr. Porter for that piece.
I have a motion to.
Oh yeah, that's right. We do need a motion.
Yeah.
A motion that we accept the deed or accept the resolution about the quitclaim deed on 15 Cleveland Avenue as presented by Mr. O'Neill.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Thomas, a second by Mr. Sanders. Now I will defer to Mr. Sanders for the reading of the resolution. Roll call.
Okay. Mr. Sanders votes yes. Mrs. Bucklew.
Yes.
Mrs. Albaugh is absent. Mr. Rigger.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Mr. Rollins.
Yes.
Mr. Skinner.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay.
All right.
We'll need to sign your
If
copy.
each of you could sign that, and Jack, I'll swing by sometime before I go and record that deed for you to get your signature on this.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. O'Neill, for that piece. Under F2, okay. We have the approval of the indemnification agreement with USI Insurance and PEIA. If you'll recall, we switched our health insurance last year to PEIA, and we have a member of the USI insurance team that administers the program for us out of the Huntington area. Amby, do you want to speak anything to this?
No, I thought you were.
I was just opening it.
You were handling it just fine. That's true. It's what it is. It's an agreement between the PEIA, the USI Insurance, and ourselves. This agent comes in and helps us with the administration of the PEIA health insurance for our employees. They meet with employees that want to meet with them monthly, and if there's any issues, then this gives them the right to ask questions for these employees through PEIA on our behalf.
Right. And this has been a successful program thus far for the city. It seems as though employees are happier with PEIA than they've been with any health insurance provider we've had in the past several years. And our premiums reflect very favorably for our budget purposes. So this is something I think that we should continue the agreement with. So I would entertain a motion that we go ahead and accept the terms.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Rylands. We have a second by Mr. Thomas. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those like sign opposed. The motion carries unanimously. F3. So we have a few vacancies that we need to fill. Listed here are a member of the Planning Commission, a member for the Buckhannon Upshur Airport Authority, a member for the Buckhannon River Watershed Association, and the Buckhannon Fire Department Accreditation Policy Review Committee, which for the Fire Department Accreditation Policy Review Committee, it is a member of the City Council, and I would like for C.J. Rylands to serve in that role, and C.J. has agreed to serve in that capacity. So that is the, for this particular discussion, that is the only one, because we need to think amongst ourselves and ask some folks in the community about Planning Commission, Airport, and River Watershed Association. If you have ideas for those vacancies, please either call me, text me, email me, or feel free to contact folks yourself if you'd like to for those roles. But I entertain a motion that we accept for this particular discussion C.J. Rylands as the council representative on the Fire Department Accreditation Policy Review Committee. We have a motion by Mr. Sanders, a second by Mr. Rylands. All those in favor? Thomas. Sorry, I pointed at Rylands. I said Rylands. So second by Thomas. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 I abstain.
Mr. Rylands abstains, and we have the. Is there any opposed? No opposed. It is unanimous minus Mr. Rylands' abstention. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. May I have another?
Yay, Rob.
Okay. We have up next is F4, and I will defer to Mr. O'Neill, Mrs. Jenkins, and Mr. Sanders. We are discussing the World Association of Marching Bands funding allocation, as that event is coming here in about, let's see, just 2 years away.
Yep. And I'm the spokesperson in this part of it, so we will have to probably fill in with Randy and Tom.
Okay.
So I'm going to, as you know, council, we're going to have a very large event here in Buckhannon in July of 23. And so far, council has expressed a willingness to support this event. In February, council had agreed to contribute $100,000 towards a grant, but about that same time, Callie was leaving the city. So that grant application didn't get completed, so we didn't get that in time. Randy and I, however, have met with Region 7, Dion Allen that works there, and she's looking at grants for us, so we're trying to seek those grants, and we think there's going to be some form of grant that we can get, but we're not sure. There's going to be there's more discussion there and more meetings with maybe arts and culture in Charleston. So in trying to navigate through how we're going to finance this and how the finances will work in a government, it has been a lot of discussions going on. So of course, one of the challenges is how to handle the finances. We had a lot of conversations between Randy, myself, and others. I've talked to the state auditor's office and a few other people. We've got a couple critical things that we need to do here in the beginning, and that's how to set up those finances in a government entity. And then we need help with soliciting the corporate sponsors and the media consultant. We do not have that capability in here, and we'll tell you that right now. We cannot do that.
There are also ethical limitations.
What's that?
There are also Ethics Act limitations on a government ability to solicit corporate contributions.
So one of the other challenges too is in the past, anytime we've gone to a large corporate sponsor, they usually want an organization that has a 501(c) status. The city is tax deductible under the 170C1 IRS status. That's municipal government. We're tax deductible too, but most of these corporations want 501(c) organizations. I've run into this in the past, and we've run into this when Callie had to do grants. So after speaking with the auditor's office, they, of course, suggested, if this goes through the city's funds, there needs to be a separate fund and a separate account needs to be established for that. So at one time, the youth center used to have a 501. That's lapsed. It wasn't used. We're trying to revive it. But even if we revive it, then we got to thinking this really isn't a youth center event. It's a Wamsby International event. It's a marching band, an international event. So another thought was that we would maybe go to another local organization that's a 501(c) and ask them to act as a pass-through for this sponsorship. Then as we discussed, we thought, now this is going to get a little confusing about who's controlling it. the WAMSB committee has already done a lot of legwork, so they know what they need to do. But then where does the roles get intertwined and intermingled at? So we wanted to make that clear. So our city attorney came up with an idea to establish for this WAMSB committee to establish its own 501(c) corporation, and the name of the corporation would be WAMSB Buckhannon Host Committee, and the city attorney went ahead and got the federal ID number ready for that. And then I contacted an accountant, and he's going through the application process for the 501(c) status with the IRS. Tom states that the newly organized committee can begin operations immediately while waiting on the 501(c) application. This committee would operate much like the other local events we have here in Buckhannon, and in that the city can now contribute to that organization. And any details about that, Tom can continue to elaborate on that if you have any questions there. The WAMSB Buckhannon Host Committee consists of the following people. Randy Sanders, he'd be the chairman. I myself have been on it. Callie Cronin-Sands, Elisa Lively, Laura Meadows, and Brad Kellison. That's who's been on it so far working on these items. Now, here's where we get into the question to you. This committee will need to get funds while it's waiting on sponsorships. And I don't anticipate that's going to happen anytime soon. The question is whether the city is willing to contribute that $100,000 that they contributed towards the grant to this organization. And this would enable the committee to begin the process to acquire insurance, establish an international social media presence. One of the most important tasks will be to engage a media consultant, and they'll begin seeking corporate sponsorship right away. And then again, Randy and I will continue to work with Dion Allen of Region 7 to look for grant funding. So that's our question to you. How much are you willing to fund this?
I think we should go ahead and fund the $100,000. And, you just reported, Andy, that our first quarter sales tax was $430-some thousand. And I think, the sales tax has given us a lot of flexibility for things like this. And I think when you're looking at the impact on Buckhannon and Upshur County with this day a couple years from now, it's not just a positive impact. Think of the surrounding areas. I mean, you have all these bands coming in, and the people that are sponsoring them and so forth. It's not only Upshur County, but it's going to be surrounding counties that are going to have some positive impact. Lewis County and Barber County and Elkins, the whole area. It's just going to be phenomenal. I mean, that's what we're all thinking anyway. And it's a very exciting time for Buckhannon and Upshur County and the surrounding areas. So I think when we looked at the sales tax, we were looking at what opportunities do we have to bring more involvement into this community for the future. And I definitely think we'll get a lot of payback with this $100,000 investment.
I got to talk to one of our sister cities recently, and they were very excited about the event because they know that we need to reach out to them for help. I mean, and they were very excited about it. They were thrilled that it was coming to West Virginia, in our area.
So I make a motion to be funded entirely, do it immediately, and hold some of that money. You already said you had $1.6 million in the budget for next year, and we know we're going to receive more than $400,000 per quarter for the sales tax. So I think it's something that we should do.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Let's open it up for discussion. Pam?
I just want to ask, I'm all in favor 100%, but other than insurance, what will that $100,000 go toward?
Well, we have to get a media consultant, a professional media consultant, and that'll take a chunk of that in that 2-year period. Now, we do want to get sponsors back. Okay. So, I'm not going to say this isn't going to be the last time I might come to ask you for that. And then, of course, we're going to be looking at grants.
Well, but with respect to what is the money going to go towards, putting on the event is going to, it's going to cost money. It's going to, I mean, everything from renting porta-johns to water, electrical, and the whole bit.
I'm asking this so the public will have an idea.
Right. Everything that goes, imagine every expense that's associated with the Strawberry Festival, and then expand it by the scale of this event.
Well, part of the challenge for the committee is to put together a pro forma in respect to what the expenses will be for the next couple of years. And I think that's one of the primary challenges that Chairman Sanders is going to have to put forth and have the absolute transparency with what we're doing.
Well, and that'll be the work of the whole committee, putting
Yes.
together an event budget and the entire event, the event plan that's going to deal with all of the crowd control, all of the infrastructure, all of the services that are associated with it, all of the ancillary offerings that are going to be made to visitors, the revenue that'll be generated from participants, the revenue generated by sponsors, the expenses that'll go into advertising, printing, and so on.
I would like that, I mean, I'm on the committee, so I'd like it to be as transparent as we are here. We'll come back and do reports. I mean, I don't have a problem with saying, here's the expenses, here's the expenses we have, these are the revenues we've got coming in. I probably have to be careful with certain corporate sponsorships because some of them are want you to be very careful about their own personal.
I think it's a good idea for the public since we're spending the public's money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But one other question I have, at the end of this, okay, and if there's money left over, where will that money go?
Well, of course, the committee would have to establish that, but there's already been preliminary conversations. I should let Mr. Sanders answer to this, but if there's money left over, it would go to charitable organizations within this community that are art-based. And that'd have to be determined, but it would go to charitable organizations in this community.
So it wouldn't come back to the city?
Oh, no, it'll go to charitable it'll go to charitable organizations, and I think we have to.
It couldn't. It could create some real problems from a tax.
So it could go to Stockard.
It could go to Stockard.
Arts programs, music-based programs. I mean,
Strawberry Festival.
The Board of Education. I mean, it could go to any charitable organization that the committe were to designate.
So it's any nonprofit or
No,
any
it has to be a check.
501c3?
It'd have to be a 501c3.
It would not be a governmental agency.
Correct.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Those were good questions, Pam.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second on the table, or on the floor. I would call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain. I'll abstain.
Okay, we have, any opposed? Okay, so let the record show that all council members are supportive, with the exception of Randy Sanders, who, as a member of the committee, and well, as the chair of the committee, is abstained.
And did not participate in the discussion.
Correct.
To the matter as well. That should be noted in the minutes also.
Okay. Final item for discussion and or vote this evening. We have a discussion, possible action to process to increase the water rates.
Can I mention F5 real quick?
Oh, did I skip that? I did skip that. I'm sorry. Yes, 65 East Main Street. Yes.
Just as a note, members of council have in the packet the signed purchase agreement for 65. Depending on who you talk to, it's either 65 or 63 East Main. It's really beside the point. The attorney for the Pythians is out of town. As soon as she returns from vacation or whatever she's doing, we'll schedule a close. Title to that property looks good, and we are all systems go on closing that purchase.
Okay. Do you need a motion of any kind
No.
this evening? Okay.
Not on that matter.
Okay. Okay. I just hit check mark too soon. Okay, F6. Now we'll talk about our water rates.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, the council has before it ordinance number 451 of the city of Buckhannon and ordinance 1, amending ordinance numbers 207, 228, 342, 369, and 392 of the city of Buckhannon, and 2, specifically establishing new water rates and charges for water distribution services provided by the Water Board of the city of Buckhannon. This is the first of 3 readings and a public hearing that will take place the evening of 3rd reading, which is scheduled for June 3rd. I will note that the new rates associated with this ordinance are reflective of those found in the rate study by Todd Dingus. Thank you. I slipped my mind on his name for a second, but which is in order for the water board to break even, more or less, it's a 25% rate increase. That is reflective of a couple of things. One, it has been 5 or 6 years since the last rate increase. And in the meantime, the costs to provide service to the water board's customers has increased substantially. The water board is operating, correctly, the water board is operating at a deficit if this rate increase is not passed.
Well, one of the very large categories that we have to fill in is that we're required by code to contribute money to the depreciation account, and we can't do that right now. We have some CDs, and we've actually just closed one out because we have some capital expenses that we need to work on. But we do have to contribute to this depreciation account, and we cannot do that at all right now.
That's required by state code.
Yes.
That's right.
So again, this is the first of 3 readings and a public hearing that will be held. Be happy to take any questions.
Okay, so I'm looking at the price increases, and it goes from 0 to 2,000 gallons up to in excess of 50,000 gallons. And the rate is $3.20. The new rate would be $3.24 for every 1,000 gallons over 50. So that would be the lowest rate for municipal residents, right? For 1,000 gallons, the $3.24.
I'm not sure that I follow your question. The first 2,000 gallons used per month
is $8.14.
Right. The next 12,000 gallons
is charged at
the next 36,000 gallons will be charged at $7.03, and then anything over 50,000 gallons would be charged at $3.24.
That's each
per
user.
gallon.
And
Per 1,000 gallons.
per user too.
That's right, per customer.
So if I use 50,000 gallons of water a year, a month, am I charged?
You'll be charged $8.14
for the first 2,000, and then $7.84 for the next section, and then it goes, so it's scaled all the way down.
Yeah, per
Okay.
1,000, yes.
And on this I'm on page 5 on what I'm reading, but the resale customers, this is all the water we sell to public service districts, correct?
That's correct. Now that increase, I should have been clearer there. That increase is approximately 42%.
So we have, what was the old rate? The new rate is $2.50.
The old resale rate is
176 for resale.
Where are we? Where is that?
It's $1. The old rate for resale was $1.76 per 1,000.
It's right up there at the top of page 5.
Oh, that's right. $1.76 per 1,000. The new resale rate is $2.50 per 1,000 gallons.
So it increased a higher percentage
Much higher.
City residents.
That's correct.
But it's still significantly less than the lowest rate that any resident would pay, $3.24.
Yes, because, right, because.
They're reselling.
Because that's a bulk, because that's a wholesale rate.
Right.
That resale rate is a wholesale rate.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is that folks outside of city limits, and I don't know how what percentage increase the public service district adds to that purchase.
They can pass through exactly what we gave them an increase on. They can pass that through.
So I'm saying the difference between what we sell it and what they sell it for.
They're a lot higher than ours.
Yeah, it's quite.
Their resale rate is a lot higher than ours, yeah.
Right. Well, so they'll be paying, people outside the city limits will be paying more than people inside the city
I'm
limits.
on a different PSD, and I will definitely be paying more than the customers in town, yes.
Me too.
Even though that we have to pay an additional 2% utility tax on where the outside the city limits they don't, right?
Yes, I'll pay more.
Well, I guess on a broader scale, what percentage of revenue into the water department comes from municipal businesses and residents and all the public service districts together?
I'd have to look that up.
I mean, yeah, some ballpark. I guess what I'm getting at is if for each penny you raise the resale rate, does that represent a penny reduction or potentially a penny reduction for municipal customers or?
No, the rate's the same for municipal customers inside and out that are on our water service. The rate is the same. There's no reduction because you live outside the city limits. Is that what you're asking?
The city cannot charge discriminatory fees like that. It has to charge the same rate whether the customer is inside or outside of city limits. This resale rate is for the public service districts that buy the city's water wholesale at the end of their line and then go and in turn feed it into their own system so that they don't have to go build their own water treatment plant. They buy the water wholesale from us, and that resale rate has to recapture our costs in treating that water, providing and treating that water. But we cannot charge discriminatory rates. You cannot charge different rates for customers on the same system that are inside or outside of the municipality. That's illegal.
People outside that are being charged the same rate inside actually have a reduction of 2% because the utility tax is not applied to their bill outside of city limits.
Can you walk the microphone back to Jerry? I think he had something he wanted.
Well, I just wanted to talk to, CJ was asking about PSDs and the resale rates. I'm on Adrian PSD and I just pulled their rate up. It is, for the first 3,000 gallons, is $13.62 per thousand for the first three.
$11 more than they're paying for.
And then the lowest rate is all over 20,000 gallons is $11.77 per thousand gallons right now.
Okay, it's, the foundation what I'm trying to get at is that, what enhancement is there to be within municipal boundaries if the stuff if it's actually selling it less to people outside of our boundaries?
Well, when we're talking about providing the water, I mean, there's two things to think about here. There's providing the water and there's building out the system. Inside city limits, the city can subsidize the build out of the system. It can't subsidize the build out of the system outside of city limits, even for its own customers, or it shouldn't at least. This is the whole issue that we got into out west of town. So that's where the advantage in being inside is. But state law and the Public Service Commission do not allow the city to charge different rates to customers inside or outside the city if they're on the same, its own customers. We're not, this is not, don't confuse customers inside and outside city limits on the Buckhannon system with public service districts that the city sells water to for resale.
Right.
Those are different, that's apples and oranges.
Well, I mean, I brought a copy of my last water bill, and it's $1,722.44. And for those of you that are
That's a
using,
commercial bill.
that's for my business, yeah. And I used 55,100 gallons of water, which is about average. So that would increase, and it says only water, right? This isn't sewer rate. It's not based on anything, so that's a
It's just
different
water.
rate. And it's about a $71 a month, so about $800 a year
For you.
for my business, yeah.
Now, I would note that-
Which is getting pretty significant when,
Well,
we approach $2,000 a month. That's,
Let me note that under the current rates, the Buckhannon Water Board rates are within the 10% least expensive systems in the state of West Virginia. If this increase were to be adopted by the council, we would be within the least expensive 20% of systems in the state of West Virginia. So we're still in that top quintile of most affordable water systems in the state of West Virginia, even after this proposed increase.
Yeah, there are 367 water systems in the state, of which we rank 33rd.
Right.
And so number 1 would be cheapest, number 367 would be most, and we're 33.
And after this, we would be 61.
Yeah.
well, I guess, it sounds reasonable in the context of everyone else, but, it's still,
Your bill's
it's still going to cost a lot of people significant amount of money every year.
And it costs the water board a significant amount of money to provide the water.
Yeah. That's all I have.
And we want to make sure folks realize too that when you pay your utility bill to the city, the rate, what you pay for water and sewage and trash, all of those three, if you look at your bill, those three numbers that with the charges out, from those, the what you pay for water, that goes directly to the water department. Same with your sewage, that goes directly to the sanitation department. The trash, waste goes directly to the waste department. It does, all of those monies must stay separate. So you can't take from one and give to another. When you pay your bill, it doesn't just come to a giant pot of money here at City Hall. Those funds stay separate, and they're required to stay separate by state code and through the Public Service Commission. So I want folks to realize that yeah, we do collect sales tax. We have received money through from Senator Manchin's office, or we will receive money from Senator Manchin's office, but that's all separate. We can't commingle those funds. So those funds go into general fund. This is specifically water, and that's what we have to keep in mind here, and that's why we're going through this exercise. Water stays in water, waste stays in waste, sanitation stays in sanitation.
So if those are all segregated, what does fuel surcharge and then the utility tax, does that go into general fund?
The utility tax goes to general fund. The fuel surcharge goes to waste.
Waste department?
So I know it can be confusing before I ran for city council, I didn't know that. And I think there's a lot of folks out there that don't realize that each individual charge stays in that each individual bucket or department. So I want folks to keep that in mind as we go through this exercise. And we, as Amby reported and as Tom reported, we are required to meet a certain bond requirement, which we cannot meet under the current rate. So we're bound by certain stipulations through the state code and the Public Service Commission to enact the rates for our area.
So one of the biggest changes that were in effect with the new standards is that you have to fund your depreciation expense, where before you didn't have to.
That is correct.
And so but the other, as Tom pointed out, 5 years ago, you look at what happens in 5 years, we increase our salaries and so forth, the wages per hour. The chemical expenses have increased dramatically in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. We've also discussed in the water board, and I'm a member of the water board, I think we have to have a shift differential, which we do not have currently in the city. And we're one of the few municipalities that does not have a shift differential. So, we need to take a look and we need to be modern in what we're doing as an organization.
Right.
If I understand the sentiment of the water board, it is to get into a cycle where we're not waiting so long for the next, or the water board is not waiting so long for the next increase, and that could be a smaller increase.
Yeah, we're a business, Tom, and one of the challenges we have is Class 4 operators are in very short supply. And
Labor as a whole is in very short supply right now.
Some of the larger municipalities, water departments, they have headhunters today. They go into municipalities and say, hey, we'll go get some operator 4 at a smaller unit like we have. So it's a very competitive environment out there.
That is correct. We are blessed here to be part of North Central West Virginia, a part of the state that is holding its own and growing somewhat. But within an hour's drive of here, there's a lot of competition of places to go work. And the City of Buckhannon Water Department, our water plant is classified as what's called a Class 4 plant. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Buckhannon is a 4. But so is Clarksburg. Clarksburg is a larger municipality, obviously, than the City of Buckhannon, but their water plant is a Class 4, the same as Buckhannon's is. And they have more users. They have a larger revenue stream. They oftentimes come and try to, for lack of a better term, poach some of our Class 4 operators because they can offer more. They're a larger area, and our skilled professionals can stay right here with their families in Buckhannon and just drive 30 minutes over to Clarksburg. They don't have to uproot their families. So it is a challenge where we are as with that plant distinction. It's a blessing and a curse in some ways, but we as CJ often says, we play the hand we're dealt. We do the best we can with what we have to work with. So we have a great water plant that consistently wins awards for taste and efficiency. And I served as a member of the water board prior to becoming mayor as a member of city council. And Kelly Arnold does a phenomenal job down there. And that plant has long surpassed its usage of life expectancy. Our crews, our city, we've done the right things when it comes to keeping the plant up with the maintenance. We take very good care of the plant, so it's lasted us far longer than it should, and it will continue to last us because we continue to do the right things to keep it up and running and keep it running efficiently for our community. So with that,
Rob, I'd like to make one more comment.
Okay.
I think it would be helpful, based on the conversation this evening, that maybe we could put for the next meeting or the meeting after that, put like an 8.5 piece of paper sheet and show the impact of what the 25% and the 42%, what the different, based on the gallons of usage and so forth, to have it just encapsulate in such a way that the public could see it maybe even put it in the newspaper. I mean, we got to do this publicly at some point in time in the paper, but I think it'd be, when you're sitting in a meeting like this and you're hearing all the numbers, you know, my mind just sort of got befuddled and I felt, you know what I'm saying, CJ?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you recommend, or the water board recommends, that we do the next rate, don't wait 5 years.
Exactly.
So how long is this rate increase projected until the next one comes? 2 years? 3 years?
We don't know that.
The recommendations in the past have been to at least every 3 years.
I think Councilman Rigger had recommended that we start, take our 3 enterprise boards and start rotating it. You want to explain that, Mr. Rigger?
Well, the last water increase was 2016, and the water board's running a deficit, and there's mandates that we have to meet. At the same time, we want to provide a quality service, and we need to meet the revenues to do that. I think we need to look at the utility boards once every 3 years. That way, the people impacted by rate increases aren't hit with large bills and have to make major adjustments. I remember the rate increase in 2000, I think there was one in 2015 to 2016 on the water, and I was rather surprised at how much the water rates went up, and that's because they hadn't been looked at for some time. And I think if we were more systematic in our approach and rotated the utility boards, and you have to anticipate increases for inflation, it's going to be easier on our community. Nobody wants to pay more for anything, but the reality is the city has to pay, you know, all the costs to provide those services. And I think if we had a systematic means, we can keep the costs as low as practical, and at the same time ease the burden on the people in our area that we serve. Inflation is going to be with us forever. And I think if we delay doing cost analysis, looking at the analytics, I think we're just hurting people in the long run with a sudden infusion of a large bill that could have been mitigated through more timely means of meeting the financial burdens that the city has through the rate increases. Like I said, nobody likes paying more for anything, but if we can alleviate the pain, I think that's better for everyone. The pain's going to be there, but it may not be as bad every 3 years as opposed to waiting 6 or 7 and then really levying huge increases on people.
Jack, I agree with what
you're saying. That's very unfair.
Jack, this is David. I agree with what you're saying, but the reality is, for the city, unfortunately, over the years, it has been very reluctant to do what you're asking for, is a systematic analysis of what should be passed on to our customers. And just the last discussions we've had in regard to hiring 3 more firefighters, full-time firefighters. Take a look at what the, you know, what have we done there? We need to take a systematic look at what the fire department needs. What should the county's responsibility be, along with the city responsibility? We're business. We have to act like a business. And oftentimes, municipalities, they're reluctant to do that. I believe that. They hear from, oh, don't increase my water bill, don't increase my fire fees, whatever. Well, we live in a real world, and we have to start dealing with it better than what we have.
So what you're recommending, if I hear you right, is we have 3 different boards, and we're going to examine rates every 3 years, so there would only be 1 rate increase per year instead of 2 entities in 1 year, right, so to speak. Right?
That's what we'd like to do.
And the fact that we're a class 4 water service is, if we were only supplying water within our municipality, what class would we be? A 3, which is significantly less to fund operators. The class 4 is the highest and takes the longest to accomplish. So because we're supplying water or selling water to all these public service districts, we are moved from a 3 to a 4, which increases our cost significantly. And that's why I was trying to get at with the rate differential between us selling water to the public service districts at a reduced rate than we do to the customers within the municipality. But because we're having that volume, and raise us to a class 4. So it's kind of a two-edged sword there.
Yeah, but you also have to take a look at what is the delineation in regard to fixed costs versus variable costs. I mean, you can get 10 different cost accountants and come up with 10 different figures about what the product cost is. So, I mean, it's a complicated subject. And you know, it's something that I think is going to be more and more important. You know, I keep pushing for metro government because metro government's going to save lots of money for our residents. I mean, that's just the way it is. And, you know, we're going to have more cost pressures in the future. But I'll put metro government to bed for a while.
That's good. He's already had his closing comments.
I had to get it in there somewhere.
That's right.
You know, nobody wants to deal with the real world anymore, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, we have after a great discussion. We have a great discussion, and this is what we need to be doing here. So I'm glad we had that. But under F6, we have been presented from Mr. O'Neill, carrying on the recommendation of the Water Board to move forward with establishing the rate increase through Ordinance 451. I would entertain a motion that we approve.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Thomas. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Sanders. I'm sorry. We'll give it to Mr. Rigger.
Give it to Rigger, yeah.
So we have a second by Mr. Rigger. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All the like sign opposed? Let the minutes reflect that it passes unanimously from council, but Mr. Rylands begrudgingly says aye.
No, he doesn't.
Okay. That takes us down, ladies and gentlemen, to council comments and announcements. Mrs. Albaugh is absent. She had eye surgery. She is home recovering from that, so keep her in your thoughts and prayers and check in on her if you have a moment. We'll start with Mrs. Bucklew.
I've had some people ask me within the city limits, do we have anything that we can do about obscenities put in people's yards that young people get to see every day?
Obscenities in people's yards?
Yes.
How about on a flag?
Like on flags.
Can I say the word?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing we can do.
The question was asked.
This is the Ohio Street person. It's private property. I don't believe there is anything we can do. I don't think vulgarity is not the same as obscenity. And if it was if the flag had a pornographic image on it, I think we could do something. But it's just a curse word. Even though it is a disgusting curse word, I don't believe that there is anything we can do about it.
Vulgarity is not the same as what?
Vulgarity is different from obscenity. We can do something about obscenity. We cannot do something about simple vulgarity.
Let's ask all the papers in West Virginia to interview the person who owns the house to say, why are you doing that?
I think that would probably
might be what they want.
more than anything
Yeah.
else.
Probably would be like.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
And another thing, I've heard a lot of good comments about our new mowers at the cemetery, how hard they're working, and very pleased at what they're doing. So I'll give
But they
kudos to
they
them.
missed a couple blades of grass at one,
Okay.
I just have to be a smart ass.
Anything else, Pam?
No.
Thank you. CJ?
So today I was watching the new cement mixer pour there up on Main Street, and thing looked like it worked great. They poured both pads, and it holds 4 yards, I believe. 5.17 yards. Looked like a nice mix. They got it just right. So I think that it's working great. But however, while I was standing there, I saw Sue Higgins walking across the street, and a car was turning and almost hit her. It didn't look like it was she had to scamper out of the way, and she went like this, and the guy gave her an obscene gesture. And
Did a U-turn?
Excuse me?
He was doing a U-turn?
No, he was turning. He was turning from Spring Street onto Main Street.
Oh, okay.
So
Was he on a cell phone?
she said, "What are you gonna, you do?" And I said, "Well, call the police." So I called Tim and just relayed what I saw. And about 2 or 3 hours later, they called me. I was in my office, and they said, "There's a policeman down here that wants to talk to you about a complaint." So my mind's thinking, some customer say I did something or whatever, that I'm in trouble. So, and the policeman's standing in the lobby. So I go down, Angel McCartney's there, and wanted to know about what happened with the pedestrian. And I said, let's just walk over. We walked over to the Innovation Center, up to Susie's office, and talked to her, and she explained it. And, so it's critical that we don't start running over the customers and pedestrians downtown. I know that Jerry has had requests about the crosswalk demarcations in the pavement. Since we did the new corner handicaps, we kind of changed the entrance and exits of some of those crosswalks. I don't know where that's at, but that might help. And whatever else we can do, because I don't think crossing the sidewalk or crossing the street in downtown should be any different than going from Walmart into the parking lot or Lowe's into the parking lot. There's a different view of within that, driving up and down in front of those stores. You just yield to everyone, whereas downtown, some drivers think it's highways theirs and not for pedestrians. So there's my 3 cents.
So are you blaming that on the cement mixer, CJ?
No, that's because the cement mixer, I was able to witness the incident. And then I think Susie was surprised, and I complimented Angel. I said, this is exactly how you get connected to the community. You have an issue that impacts you, and they come up and want to know about it. So kudos to the police department and Angel that they felt that this was important, and this is how you build trust and cohesion with the community in responding to specific needs,
Okay. Mr. Thomas?
Somebody gives me a ride, I'll go talk to the guy that's got the flag with the obscenities on it, and I don't mind doing that. And maybe he'll punch out a blind man, who knows. But as CJ had suggested, as Pam suggested, we live, unfortunately, in a very much me-ism society today. And I would just ask all of us, be more respectful to your fellow human beings. I can't even listen. I have a Sirius XM radio, and so I can get Fox and MSNBC and CNN and all these different. I can't even listen to them anymore because I get so frustrated with the national news media and how they portray everything, and the lack of respect we have for our law enforcement officers today. And it just gets worse and worse all the time. And something has happened societal-wise and cultural-wise. I don't know where it starts. I think in some ways it starts at the parenting in the elementary schools and the lack of church participation today. But if we keep going this way, I'm an old person, so I don't have to put up with it very much more, but I got a lot of grandkids. I have 8 right now, have 9 pretty soon, and I don't know what's going to happen to the world. It's very scary when you think about it.
The end is near.
Yeah, and some of us joke about that, but man, it's ridiculous. I listened to Fox the other day, and a Hispanic police officer cited a lady. She said, "There's no way I'm going over the speed limit." He said, "Ma'am, you're on your cell phone." She called him a murderer, cussed at him. It was unbelievable. And thank God I live in Buckhannon, West Virginia, because I think generally in this city, town, county, we're mostly respectful to our fellow human beings. But boy, outside sometimes it's pretty bad. So I would just ask all of us to please consider your fellow human being and be respectful. And my last word is Metro government. That's it.
Oh my.
I know. I can't help it.
Mr. Rigger.
Well, I want to commend the volunteers that came in and presented today. I respect them, and volunteerism is always an important thing in our society, in our community. And just want to thank you guys and appreciate your patience on my situation. And once the doctors clear me, I'll be attending the meetings personally. But until then, I'll be doing this remote thing. So thank you.
And come to my back patio, Jack, because you know what we're going to do there. That was David.
I don't think he wants to come.
Yes, he does. I guarantee it.
Well, Jack, we don't care how long it takes. All we care about is that you continue to get better and stronger. So we're glad that you're moving in that direction. So, Mr. Sanders.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and my thanks to council for providing the support that's desperately needed for the WASB 23, to Amby and to Attorney O'Neill for explaining everything so well earlier. I knew it was not proper for me to participate in the discussion, so I didn't, and of course, as the mayor noted, I didn't participate in the vote. But I'm truly excited and overwhelmed at the prospects of what we have before us with the WASB event. I spoke to Rotary here in Buckhannon. I'm a Rotarian myself, and I had the opportunity to speak to Rotary as the featured guest this week, and was just moved by their enthusiasm afterwards. And they reminded me of something that I knew already. Rotary is an international organization, so they are going to roll up their sleeves as well and provide support in the way of once we establish the bands from the different countries that are participating. You know, we're going to be looking at our local Rotary Club to reach out to the other Rotarians in those countries and start building relationships among those Rotary clubs and build relationships in that manner. And that's what our media consultants will do as well. They'll begin making alliances with the media outlets in those countries. And speaking of those countries, this is one of the later printouts that I did before the meeting. We have commitments from bands. Now these are commitments. They're now working on their side of things, raising their funds and completing their requirements to make the trip to West Virginia and Buckhannon, the United States. We have commitments from a band in Angola, Africa, Bahamas, Brazil, Canada, 4 bands from Colombia, 1 from Congo, Africa, the first one from Angola, Africa, from Costa Rica, from Ecuador, from El Salvador, from Germany, from Guatemala, Honduras, Ireland, Netherlands, Poland, Thailand, Uruguay, and 2 bands from Venezuela. We have a few more that didn't make the list yet. All total, we have 29 bands who have provided letters of commitment. They're working hard about 19 countries, and we're working with bands within the United States as well. So, you know, it is really truly going to be an international event. It's going to be the world coming to Buckhannon, West Virginia, USA. So again, thank you to council for your continued support. And now that we can really move forward, you'll start seeing social media, a website developed, a lot of media. So to the reporters in the room, you'll start getting some more and updates forthcoming. And you're going to see, you know, Buckhannon truly put on the international map in a big, big way. So, Mr. Mayor, and to my fellow council members, thank you. We'll look forward to big things to come.
Well, thank you for spearheading this, Randy.
My pleasure.
And I think it is really fantastic.
I agree. Okay. Today, we played host to Senator Capito. She came to Buckhannon while visiting West Virginia to see the New River Gorge being dedicated as the first national park in West Virginia. But also accompanying her was NBC News, not WBOY TV 12 Clarksburg, but NBC Worldwide News headquartered in New York City. They today filmed a lot of different things, a lot of different people. Myself and CJ Rylands participated, as well as some folks just walking up and down Main Street, some college students, other business owners in town. We are going to be on NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt tomorrow night during the 6:30 newscast. I've been told it's not going to be more than probably a 45-second piece, but Buckhannon is going to be on the national news for something very positive. We are one of the bright spots in America when it comes to small town economic development. And that was seen today. We have very few empty storefronts downtown. We have a very wide variety of businesses downtown. We have broadband connectivity. We have great utility infrastructure. And all of those points were made today during Senator Capito's walk through town. We went into some businesses and she met some business owners and proprietors. The crew from NBC said that the crew had never been here before, but they thought that this was really a great slice of Americana. And I think we should be very proud of that. Buckhannon we know it as a great place to live and work. And hopefully tomorrow night, some folks from all over the country and around the world will see it in that light as well. So I encourage everybody to tune in. If you don't watch regularly, turn on Channel 12. It's our NBC affiliate here locally, WBOY, and watch the 6:30 newscast. It's a half hour, and somewhere in there, Buckhannon, West Virginia is going to make the national stage.
Has this been put on the website yet?
No. No. We don't have. They're still working on editing. I mean, it won't be released on the on NBC's website till after the cast tomorrow night.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just wanted to have people be able to put on the
Be aware.
NBC tomorrow,
Oh,
so they know what's going on and can view it.
Sure.
You said 6:30. That's the local newscast.
No, that's the national.
That's the national.
Yeah, local
6:30.
news ends at 6:30. National news from 6:30 to 7 is with Lester Holt from New York.
Well, that's
So,
fantastic.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. You know, this community deserves the recognition, and the people here deserve the recognition here too, and the business owners who make us what we are. So, with that, I encourage everyone to watch, and I would entertain a motion that at 8:55 p.m. we adjourn.
So moved.
All right.